All right, what up, what up, YouTube? So this is actually my first deck tech. I've been looking around YouTube a lot here lately for a life gain deck tech to give me some ideas. But honestly, a lot of the life gain decks I've seen, they haven't really been that great, to be honest with you. So I'm here to give you what I think is a pretty decent life gain deck tech. Now my deck, it doesn't, just focus on life. What it really focuses on is token production. And with that token production, if I get the right cards out, I can gain a tremendous amount of life every turn. So without further ado, what I did is I actually ordered them in the best way here. And then on the bottom, it's actually some placeholder cards. And so I can find and get some cards that are a little bit better than the ones I have in here. And now one of these cards, you're going to be like, well, why are you getting rid of that one? And I'll explain when I get there. But with further ado, the first thing I have here is actually a play set of Soul Warden. And it's a drop for 1 planes. And it's whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life, as you can see there. So that's pretty good there, in my opinion. And then the next thing I have here is a play set of Suture Priest. And with that, it has a little bit of a different effect. It's a 2-drop for 1 colorless and 1 plains. Here, can't really see it there, but this one has whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. Then it actually has whenever a creature enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, you may have that player lose 1 life. So that's kind of a double effect right there, which I think is pretty cool. Finally focused there. Then the next thing I have here is 3 Healer of the Prides, which is just, it's a 4-drop, and it's whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 2 life. So that's pretty good there. Then the next card I have here is a Sunblast Angel. And what that does is when it enters the battlefield, it actually destroys all tapped creatures. So say your opponent just swung out last turn, you play this, you cripple them basically. So I think that's a pretty good effect there. And then the next thing I have here is a Rox Faithmender. I have 2 of them. And what that does is it has lifelink. It's a 1/5. And it actually says if you would gain life, you gain twice that much life instead. So basically, you just double your life gain right there. Then the next thing I have here is Trostani Selesnya's Voice. Which what that does is whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness. So that's pretty good. And then with this, you can actually pay 1 colorless, 1 forest, and 1 plain, tap Trostani, and you can populate any token on your field. So say you have an angel creature token out there, you populate it at the end of your turn, and you get another one. And then actually have 4 Angelic Accords here. So that doubles, well, not really doubles, but it gives me a greater chance of actually getting those angels out there. If you don't know what it does, is if you gain 4 life in a turn, you get to put a angel creature token on the battlefield at the end of the end step there. I don't know why I couldn't think of that there. And then here I actually have 2 Growing Ranks, which what that does is at the beginning of your upkeep, you get to populate a token on your field. So if you have a token out there, and you also have Trostani, you don't even have to use her populate ability. You can just have Growing Ranks do it for you, and then at the end of the end step, you get that token out there. Then the next card I have here is Parallel Lives, which what that does is it says if you would get a token on the battlefield, you actually put twice that many tokens on the battlefield. So say you have 2 or 3 Accords out, you have that out with it. It's 6 tokens in 1 turn right there. So I think that's pretty good. And then what I have here is Dictate of Karametra. And what that does is whenever a player taps a land for a mana, they add 1 mana to his or her mana pool of any type that land produced. So basically with this card, you're double tapping, not double tapping, but you're doubling your land base. The only drawback with this card is it does go for your opponent as well. And then the next thing I have here is a Norn's Annex. And what that does is that basically cripples your opponent if they don't have planes. Because creatures can't attack you or a planeswalker you control unless their controller pays, that blank right there, which is either a planes or 2 life for each of those creatures. So if you get that out, you kind of cripple your opponent if they don't have planes or if they tapped out this turn. And the one I have here is Elixir of Immortality. I'm sure we all know what that does. It's one of the most popular cards in Magic. Then I have the Chain Veil. What that does is if you don't use the loyalty ability of a planeswalker this turn, you lose 2 life. But at your end step, if you pay 4 and tap, you can actually use another effect for each planeswalker you have on the field with this card. So I think that's pretty good, especially since I play 3 planeswalkers. And the first planeswalker I play is Ajani, Caller of the Pride, which its +1 is put a 1/1 counter on up to 1 target creature. Its -3 is target creature gains flying and double strike until end of turn. And then its -8 is put X 2/2 white cat creature tokens on the battlefield, where X is your life total. So once again, if you can get that -8 effect in there and you have those cards to gain that life on the field, then basically you just fucked up your life right there and you're untouchable unless, they play a board wipe and you don't have anything left in your deck. So then the second planeswalker I have here is Ajani Goldmane, and its +1 effect is you gain 2 life. Let's see if it'll focus in here. I'm sure it'll focus eventually. I'm just going to tell you what it is anyway. So. And then its -1 is put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control, and those creatures gain vigilance until end of turn. And then its -6 is put a white avatar creature token onto the battlefield. It has this creature's power and toughness are equal to your life total. So that actually is pretty good there. Because once again, this is a life gain deck. So if you get 300 life, it comes on as a 300, and then even with that, it keeps growing as your life goes too. So I think that's pretty good. And then the next one I have is Elspeth Tirel. And what that does is its +2 is you gain 1 life for each creature you control. So once again, with those tokens on the battlefield, you're set. Its -2 is put 3 1/1 white soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield, so that's pretty good too. And then its -5 is destroy all other permanents except for lands and tokens. So that's pretty good too. Especially if you have a lot of angel tokens out there and they have like stuff with reach or death touch and reach or flying themselves. You can just destroy those and go on about your day. So now we're on to the placeholders here. And the first placeholder I have is Ajani's Pridemate, which it says whenever you gain life, you may put a 1/1 counter on Ajani's Pridemate. You may be wondering why I'm trying to get rid of that card. It's actually because it's really easy to block unless you put in something to give it trample. So, I mean, if they have a lot of chump blockers out there, you have this 64, you swing, they block with 1 creature, it's into the damage step. So, I mean, I don't really use it to win a lot. I've used this a couple times to win. But for the most part, I just use my angels. What I really want to get for this deck is actually a Rise of the Redeemed, which what that does is it's actually a 1-drop. And with that, you have the ability to put a token onto the battlefield. I think it's a 3 or 4 cost there. And then for the cost of 6, you can actually double all the tokens you have on the field, which I think is pretty good. That'll give you a shit ton of life every turn. And the next card I have here is a Veteran Ward Leader. And what that does is its power and toughness are equal to the amount of creatures you control. Then I have Seraph of the Masses, which is basically the same thing, but it has Convoke. So power and toughness is equal to the number of creatures I control. That's basically all with the spells and the creatures at this point. So at this point we're going to move into the land. I have 5 forests in this deck because I don't really use forest a lot for anything. A lot of it's white. We have 9 plains. We have 4 Selesnya sanctuaries, which what that does is when it comes into the battlefield, you do have to send a land back to your hand. But the next turn you can tap Selesnya sanctuary for 2 and call it done. So that's not too bad there. Then we have 4 blossoming sands, which it does tap for either a plains or a forest. But you do gain 1 life when it comes onto the battlefield. Then I have a gray pelt refuge, which does the same exact thing as the blossoming sands. And then also have a stirring wildwood, which you can turn it into a 3/4 green and white elemental creature with reach, and it's still on land. So I think it's pretty cool. So that's my life gain deck. Shoot a comment in the section below and let me know what you think of it.